do you look around at let's say, the current field of candidates? We have a number of people who've come forward for the GOP nomination. People are looking at Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, various others. Joe Biden, I know that people have a lot of questions. It's become very politicized as to his fitness for office. How do you look at that situation? Do you have any sort of comparable assessments?
So to clarify, I usually certainly don't diagnose, and I don't normally comment on political figures, except when they pose a great danger to the nation and there is enough information to be able to offer opinions that would add to what the public already sees. And certainly I would say that more generally, that this Trump contagion that we were warning against since the very beginning, because a mentally impaired person had the powerful influence of the U.S. presidency not only for the full term, but in fact in my book, Profile of a Nation, Trump's Mind, America's Soul, I described that his presidency essentially never ended because there was no intervention that was commensurate to the problem at hand. And so that's very much what has continued in the mind of many of his supporters.
So you don't see any, just to clarify, you don't see any comparable threats with the other candidates or other people in the public sphere right now that would warrant the same attention that Donald Trump warrants? So that would just so people watching understand, if they did pose a similar threat, you would have a similar warning about other people like a Ron DeSantis or a Joe Biden.
If the warning warranted an individual, which is not diagnosing, but warning against the dangers of the individual in that position, currently I would say that the danger is greater than ever. And even the dangers of Donald Trump are greater than ever because he could still win. He could still win the candidacy and could still win the presidency, not because of any legitimate reasons, but in spite of everything that has happened and in spite of all the indictments. His ratings have been rising since the indictments. His fundraising has been going up. So this is the kind of thing that I've been trying to point out, is a kind of psychological epidemic, if you will, in that his powers have grown despite people's unwillingness to support him. His influence has grown, and he has had many imitators as a result. And this is not just rational strategy, but truly the spread of symptoms and the spread of the dysfunction that he has brought to the political scene.
I want to be, I always try to tread carefully because, we're not partisan, and,
Yes.
We have many people who are to the right, to the left. How do you respond to the criticism, Dr. Lee, that this feels like a partisan attack? That, you don't like Donald Trump, you wouldn't vote for him, so you're pathologizing him and his presidency.
That's why it's very important to speak about mental health aspects in general terms. It's important for the public to be educated, especially when it's become such a critical issue in the political field.
So, but when you unpack the hallmarks of what we're talking about with regard to the dangers here, what are some of the classic signs that you've identified that distinguish this? And is there a history? Like, can you look at other parts of the world or
Yes.
times in history where you'd say this is a classic scenario A?
Yes, absolutely. This has happened in many other cultures, and advanced societies have not been immune. Just as individuals can fall into an illness, and once the illness takes course, it can sometimes only worsen unless there's proper intervention. And that's very much what we're seeing with society. A well-known example is German society, where many people are still alive and remember what happened there. It had one of the most advanced cultures, its literature, music, economy, and its military force with the Bismarck. It was one of the most powerful nations, and yet it too had succumbed to a kind of, you might call it Hitler contagion or Nazi contagion, in that mental symptoms are often thought to be confined to the individual, but they are in fact psychosocial, and they can spread. In fact, spread more rapidly than the ordinary infectious diseases we think about. And this is an important characteristic